right. Welcome, everyone, to
Hello.
ChurchSpring Live,
Woohoo.
episode 2. We are
We're
super
professionals
excited.
now.
Yeah, no, maybe. We're making progress. So we're super excited to have you all joining us. I see we've got a few people online already. So we are just thrilled to be able to engage with you in this way and serve you in this way. So quick intros. My name's Ron Gibson. I am the co-founder and president of ChurchSpring, and joining me today, I have Isabel Folletti.
Hello there. I am the church success lead, and I am so excited to be digging into today's content.
Awesome. Well, we've got some really great things in store for today. So we're going to go ahead and just dive on in. For those who are brand new to ChurchSpring is a software provider committed to the Great Commission. We help church leaders by providing practical tools to aid in growing the local church for the glory of Christ. So that's who we are. That's what we are about. And we really want to be able to partner with you and provide tools to reach your community. So we've got a hi that just came in the comments. So hi, Iris. Awesome to have you joining us today. Feel free, anyone that's watching, if you have questions as we go along or prayer requests, please feel free to submit those. We'll answer as many questions as we can. And we're going to wrap up with prayer here at the end, and we'll be sure to pray for those requests. So also, to make sure that you don't miss out on any future Facebook Lives, go ahead and like our page. We're also going to be posting events, so you should also receive notifications about a new event on our page that you can come and get a reminder from there as well. So I'm going to use this. This is awesome. Look, we've got Iris using the StreamYard thing. That's so awesome. We've got, let's see. I'm sorry if I don't say your name correctly. Is it Keshi? Anyway, so we've got Keshi joining from Community Covenant Church in Calumet Park, Illinois. So that's awesome. We've got Kevin joining us today as well. So welcome to all of you. We are just absolutely thrilled. Honestly, that's
awesome.
I just made my day. So getting a little emotional. I'm not going to lie. I'll tell you, Satan did not want us to get on live this morning.
Nope.
And we are just so thrilled that God's providing all the technology to work so far. Yep. And we're just trusting in him. So it's so good to see you all. Okay. Yeah. Kishi, there we go. Thank you so much. I totally get the whole name mispronunciation. My name is spelled R-O-H-N. And I get called Roan and Rahan and all kinds of things, but it's pronounced Ron.
True. Rob
so
on
awesome.
occasion.
Yes, yeah. So Kishi, thank you so much for giving us that pronunciation. We've also got Tanya joining us today as well from Kingdom Family Christian Fellowship in Alabama.
Hey, Tanya.
Down there. Awesome. We're so glad to have you on, Tanya, as well. So feel free. Yes, Kishi, we're totally on the same page. We gotta stick in this together. That's awesome. So awesome to have you all joining. Man, what a privilege to serve you all and to connect with you all here on Facebook Live. So today we are going to talk about a topic that we get a ton of questions about. And I think there are quite a few just needing some help and really understanding the importance of domain names, what they are, should I have one, what are some best practices? So we've come up with a list of questions. So some of the commonly asked questions that we receive at ChurchSpring, and we're going to go through those today. So without further ado, you've got the list, Isabel. So let's jump on in.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. I work every day with our customers, and a lot of what I do is helping our customers update their domain name. And it can be a confusing topic and a confusing process for someone who is completely new to this world. And it was new to me. So I completely understand. It can kind of be frustrating. So if you're tuning in and if you're nodding your head saying, yes, I'm a little frustrated and a little confused about domain name because I just don't get it, keep listening, because we are going to answer all your questions and help you see that this is a step-by-step process that you can get to the end too. So I'm really excited to talk about this. This is close to my heart. Who thought I would say that domain name is close to my heart? But it is.
Yeah. Just a quick reminder again, if you have a question about a domain name, now that we've kind of talked about the topic, please feel free again, submit your questions specifically regarding domains and anything else, and we'll answer as many of those as we can, but we'll probably stick mostly to the topic here of your domain name. So please feel free to share that. Man, it's so cool to see the comments. Benjamin, thanks for joining us. All right, let's do this. Let's jump in.
Okay, so first, let's just kind of start at the step one and explain what exactly is a domain name, because I know that can be confusing. We have to define terms to know what we're talking about. So Ron, help us out. What is a domain name?
Let's jump on in. So a domain name, just a perfect example would be churchspring.com. That is your domain name. So that is your digital address. So if you think of it, your church location, you have an address. Your home, you have an address. So what that does is that tells people where to go to see you, whether it's at church, at home, etc. So your domain name is your physical or your digital address online. So where do I go to find out information about your ministry? I go to your domain name. So for example, if you want to find out about ChurchSpring, you go to churchspring.com. So that is what a domain name is. Every church should have its own domain name. I know there's staging sites, there's and we'll get more into that here in a minute, so I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Isabel, you know I can do that very easily, so hold me back. But
we will.
It is so important that your church have its own domain name. So again, for us, it's churchspring.com, because that domain name is going to go on so many pieces. If you have business cards, if you have door hangers to invite people to church, it should have your domain name on there so people can go to find out more about your ministry.
Well, you kind of stole my next question. Why do you want a domain name? So that was a good answer.
There you go.
Anything else you want to add to kind of the reason why? I mean, before you answer, I will say it is one of the reasons is that it's so easy for visitors to remember your name. So instead of remembering, again, we'll get into kind of what a staging site is. So we've mentioned that. So stay tuned. We'll explain more of what that is. But it's easy for people to remember. So you can verbally say, oh, go check out our church website at firstbaptistchurch.com. Easy for people to remember. They don't have to type in a lot of characters and numbers and all kinds of crazy stuff, because that's the world that we live in. So that's the format you would want to follow. Anything you'd want to add to that, Ron?
Yeah. So I just want to say, so it's so great. There's so many churches that we talk to that, you know, they look at, well, Facebook can be my church website and I don't need a domain name. I can just use, you know, whatever service provider they have, their subdomain. And it's great to see we've got some great people on here that agree with they need to own their domain name. So thanks, Benjamin, for the comment there, brother. We are, definitely. You got to own your own domain name and you want to own it, right? So again, I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves here, but it's so important.
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I'm just going to say, go out, purchase your own domain name. You own it, then you can put it out there on as many places. If you do billboards, if you do digital advertising, if you do whatever that is to reach people in your community, that is going to be the place, the address, many times that gets the most visits. So sometimes we don't realize that. We look at our physical address as, well, that's the place that's going to get the most visits. Well, in reality, your digital address may actually be the place that gets the most visits. I attend and I'm part of a small local church here in my community. And most services, especially with obviously things going on here currently, but even outside of that, as people go to our website and listen to sermons and watch it throughout the week, we actually get more visitors throughout the week to our website because our website's available 24 hours of 7 days a week versus our local gathering place that may be, you know, depending on how you do things at your church, it's, you know, there's just a few services throughout the week and fellowship times and things like that. So, so important on your own domain name.
Yeah. And something that I just thought of because I was responding to a ticket this morning, actually, someone asked, how can they help their search results? And this is one of the reasons why you want a domain name for your church is that when someone searches for you or searches for churches near them in Google or Yelp or whatever search engine, you want your website to come up. That'll be another topic for another episode, but that was a good example here.
Here's a great thing from Benjamin. And if you have a ChurchSpring website, you want people to see it.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Yeah, so thank you for that, man. It's our team works very hard.
Yep.
Isabel, the rest of our group, man, we work very hard. So thank you for that. I can't tell you how many pastors I've talked to though that they don't want to tell people about their church website
Right.
because it's just outdated, or it
Yeah.
doesn't really represent their local ministry very well.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate that, Benjamin. Man, so cool to engage in this way. I'm honestly just tickled, like having worked on this thing for years and years and years. Man, I really appreciate you all. So thank you for that.
Yep. Okay, so we've mentioned already a staging site or a subdomain. What are we talking about here, Ron?
Yeah. So when you create your ChurchSpring website specifically, and different providers do this differently, but with ChurchSpring, when you create your 7-day free trial and you get going, we actually create what's called a staging site for you. So that would be like your churchspring.org.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a place where you can go, and after your site's, you've again created your 7-day free trial. We've already loaded your site with some of the template content, but where you can go in, tweak it and change it and make it your own before you officially go live at your own domain name, right? So again, we'll use the example of churchspring.com. Let's say that you have a current website. You go and you create your 7-day free trial with ChurchSpring. We auto assign you initially a subdomain that then you click on, you log into, you make that website your own. You upload sermons, you add events, you go into your leadership pages and tweak those, add photos of your church leadership as well as information about them. And then once you're ready to go, so that's your staging site, right? It's not live. You can get to it. The people that you want to get to it can get to it and change it. However, it's not live to the general masses via your domain. Once you're ready to go, then you go in and you would update your domain name and point it to the ChurchSpring servers, which then makes your ChurchSpring site live at your domain. So the staging site is such an important piece.
Yeah.
However, I want to be clear. Your staging site and that subdomain, so yourchurch.churchspring.org, that is not your domain name.
No, that is not.
Yeah, no. That is not your domain name. We don't want you to use it that way because we want you to own and have your own digital address at yourchurch.com. So, but that's what a staging site is. Super helpful. It gives you as much time as you need to tweak it, change it before then you actually go live at your own domain name.
Yep. That was a very good answer. I love that, Ron. Yeah. And just so everybody who's listening, just so you know, I will be going through the step-by-step process of how you can update your ChurchSpring subdomain name. So in probably about 10 or 15 minutes here, I'll be walking through that process. If you do have any questions about that, you'll be able to comment and we'll help you out there. Okay, so what makes a good church website domain? There's a lot of different domains that you will see out there. So Ron, help us out. What should people be looking for when they're looking to purchase their domain?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is short. We may or may not have a Hall of Fame Slack channel with some of the longest domain names you can imagine.
Don't tell them our secrets.
I know. You're getting the inside scoop on a church technology company. So we've got to do some things to, like, keep it light and fun. But anyway, really keep it short. As short as you can get it, the better. Don't go too crazy. Because and start chopping letters off that really need to make sense. So then every time you tell people your domain, you have to spell it out to them. So keep it short, but be reasonable. Avoid numbers and special characters. And the reason I say that, learn from my experience. I bought a domain name once, and every time I told somebody about it, I had to spell it. I'll just give you the example. It was R5. Okay, well, people are like, well, what does that mean? Is it R and the number 5? Is it RFIVE? And I'm like, oh no, it's actually none of those things. This was during the cool days where you like dropped the E at the end. So I was like, no, it's just RFIV.com. Like that's what you need to go to. And it was so annoying to have to tell people that. But hey, it's a 4-letter domain. fail. That's not a that's not a good domain name. So keep it short, keep it
Yeah.
sweet, avoid special characters, avoid numbers,
Yep.
and if possible, go with a .com. Now, I know
Mhm.
there's a lot of different opinions on this, but the
Yeah.
reality is when most people think about a website, they think of a .com domain.
Mhm.
Now, there are .church domains. I would
Mhm.
recommend you get the .church or a .church domain, but I would forward that to your main .com domain if
Mhm.
possible. So again, I know there's a lot of opinions on this. I'm not going to act like that's some hard, fast rule that if you don't have a .com, your website's awful. That's not true. However, that would be our recommendation just
Yeah.
based on mainline user activity.
Right. Right. And if a church has .church for their domain, and if their .com version is still available, then someone else can buy the .com version. And then that's confusing for your visitors or for your members who are trying to come to your church website, but they're just typing in .com because that's more the frequently used format for domain names. So like Ron said, you can purchase multiple domain names and have them all forward or point to your one website. So
Yes.
yeah, we'll talk about kind of what does that even look like to buy a domain name, because that can be confusing, but you don't just have to have one. Basically, you can purchase more domain names for your
Yes.
website.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. You
you're
can
not
make a domain. So that would
Yeah.
be like your .com. So let's say churchspring.com. And then, I mean, we do this too. So you can have
Mhm.
churchspring.net, churchspring.whatever, .church, and then forward those to your main home base. So
Yep.
it's kind of like having a post office box. So you have your main physical address, which would be like your home or your ministry, but then you have a post office box, and you can actually have them route the post office box to
Mhm.
then just show up, just forward the mail to your physical address. So that's what some of these other domains would be that then you forward. It's like a kind of a post office box that then just forwards to your main address.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had a question here. What about .org?
Yeah, so I would recommend you get your .org, but I would make again your main domain name a .com just because that's what people goes to. Again, this is very much preference. There's a lot of people out there that will say, "Oh, this is a hard fast rule." I don't believe that. Ultimately, whatever you build your brand around, and I say that loosely, but whatever you make is the consistent thing that you share. That's what people are going to start going to. But people are
Yeah.
just naturally, especially people that don't know about your church, if they hear, "Oh yeah, go to, you know, Faith Central, whatever dot," and they're just going to assume it's a .com.
Right.
So it's just the easiest
Right.
thing to remember. But I
Yeah.
would encourage you to definitely get, let's say you purchase your .com, then go ahead and also purchase the .org and forward that to your .com. But again, it is a little bit of preference here. But
Yeah.
I would recommend you buy all the extensions
Right. Right.
because what you don't want to have happen is you only buy the .com, somebody else goes and buys the .org or the .net, and then somebody thinks, oh, they said .org, and then it takes them to a completely different church in a different state. Or
That has
there's other
happened to me
nightmares.
before.
Yeah,
That
and
is
there's other
in real
nightmares
life.
that can happen with that too. So,
Yes.
yeah, so absolutely, Kishi, definitely get as many of those extension as makes sense for you, and then forward them to your main domain, which again we recommend is the .com.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great
Thanks for
question.
asking that. All right, Ron. So we get this question a lot on the support team. We have a live chat on our webinar, live chat on our website, and we get this question: does ChurchSpring manage your domain? So let's unpack that to kind of solve the mystery of what does it mean to manage a domain even?
Yes. Yeah. So this is good. Um, with ChurchSpring, we believe that your church should own its domain name. So we have people ask us all the time, do I buy my domain name with you? We don't. So basically, anybody that provides our types of services, if they provide their domain names, they're technically a reseller.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not actually the one that has the direct relationship with the entity that actually is the main entity that distributes domain names. So they're actually a reseller. What that does, if you resell, it creates a ton of headaches for the ministry if you ever choose to go to a different service or make changes or things like that. We deal with those nightmares all day long of, oh, well, I thought I actually bought it from this person, but they're pointing me to, sometimes there's like 3 layers
Yeah.
to actually get to the person who actually owns the domain and controls the domain. So what we do, while we could get into that and we could actually generate additional revenue from it, we know that in the long term, it's going to create a headache for you.
Right.
So we just don't do it. So what we recommend, and we'll talk about the different providers that we recommend that you check out. But we recommend you go through one of those providers, you purchase your domain, and then when it's time for you to point that domain to us, we will actually do it for you, or we'll give you the instructions on how to do that. But one of the things when it comes to domain names is, and sorry, I think I may have just gotten ahead of ourselves a little bit. Apologize. But there's a difference between domain hosting, which really is your domain name servers, and your website hosting.
Yep.
So your domain hosting with your domain name servers, that's going to be, without getting beyond crazy technical and nerdy here. And by the way, we look at nerdy as a term of affection at ChurchSpring, not a derogatory term in any way. So if you hear us use that, that's our warning. But your domain name servers, those are typically, because they can be elsewhere, but typically, and what we would recommend is that you use those through the company that you register your domain name through. So basically the company that you purchase your domain name through. And then there's website hosting. So website hosting is where your actual physical website files are, that actually, when somebody goes to churchspring.com, it goes, basically the route would be, it goes to your domain name provider, which manages what's called your domain name servers, which then tells, so it's kind of like the post office box right there, which then tells the traffic, okay, yes, you're here, but you actually want to go here, which then points it to the server where your website is hosted. So that's the difference between your domain host, which hosts your domain name servers, and your actually website hosting that actually hosts the physical files for your church website. So I know we covered a lot there, and that can be a little confusing, but the point is that there's multiple, when you talk about hosting, or, when you start getting into domain names and hosting, it can be a little complicated. So ultimately, you want to purchase your domain name through a domain name provider. They are going to host your domain name, which technically is talking about domain name servers, DNS. You'll hear that term, domain name servers. And then you'll update that to point to your actual website host, which again, we'll do that, or you can do that, depending on your technical experience and your level of feeling comfortable with giving us permission to go in and manage it. And we know we deal with all kinds of types of partners. We have people that absolutely not, we're not giving you access. Hey, that's great. Here's step by step exactly how to do it. And then there's people that are like, absolutely, I don't even know what this is. Please just do it for me. And we are more than happy to do that for you as well. Free of charge.
Yeah, free of charge. Yep. Okay, so where can you purchase a domain? Because if you Google, if you know the right words to even Google, then you will get a lot of different ads, a lot of results, and that can be really overwhelming. And then if you're like me, you spend 60 minutes just researching and you get sucked into the black hole of all these options. So where would you recommend just starting out if a church does not have their domain name? What is just one place that they can go purchase a domain name?
Yes. So real quick, Kishi, we see your question and we're going to circle back around to that. So just to know, we're going to come back to that. So we recommend namecheap.com. And I think we've even got a little banner for it. There you go. Go check out namecheap.com. Their domain names start out at under $9 a year for that. So I would recommend that you do that. Namecheap.com. Again, that's where we'd recommend you go. You can also then manage the domain name there as well to point them as far as updating your IP addresses for your domain name servers, to point those to the ChurchSpring servers. Kishi, just because it's coming up in context, ChurchSpring does host your website. So ChurchSpring not only is a website software provider, we actually bundle the software with hosting. So you don't have to go out and find an extra, basically an extra provider. Whereas if you were to use like a WordPress, depending on how you went with WordPress or some of these other providers, you would use their software, but then you'd have to go out and find another hosting provider to actually host that software and all the content for your church website. So with ChurchSpring, that's just all bundled into one thing of your church website software that actually manages your church website, and then the hosting is just included in that subscription.
Yeah. And Benjamin, I see that you have a question here. We bought our domain from Google, but we have issues with the security certificate when pointing to ChurchSpring. Is that an issue from ChurchSpring or Google? That's a really good question. So first off, send us a ticket in your ChurchSpring website, or you can just shoot us an email. However, you're able to easily contact us so that we can help take a look at your DNS records. ChurchSpring does give a free SSL certificate to any domain names that are pointing to your ChurchSpring website. So when you do experience issues with the security certificate, that is a reflection that your DNS records are not set up correctly. So, Benjamin, sounds like you have kind of a little bit of knowledge, but that probably means that your CNAME record is not set up correctly. So go into your Google domain, look at your DNS records, feel free to take a screenshot, send it on to us, and we will get that set up for you.
Yep. Yep. Cool.
Okay. So namecheap.com. Yep. That's where we can go to purchase a domain.
Yeah. So namecheap.com, again, start there. I think that's one of the cheapest. If you know of a cheap that has good quality, feel free to share it in the comments here, but that's the one that we recommend. And then again, you'll manage your domain name there. And then as well, I cannot tell you how many times we talk to churches where somebody outside of the ministry purchased the domain name and they don't even know how to log in.
Yeah.
Many times they don't even know where or who they registered that domain name through. I'm sure many of you can probably relate to that. But that is such a common thing. So I would just encourage you, have somebody at your church, even if, let's say it's a volunteer who purchased it, make sure you get the login information. So if that volunteer to leave or whatever, that you can still log in and control your domain, because otherwise they technically control your website.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. Know where it's been purchased from, know how to log in so you can go in and control your domain name.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ron, Kevin here has a really good question. I'll put it up on the screen here. We have our domain name through National Domains costing us $224 per year. Can we move this to namecheap.com?
Oh man, Kevin, I feel for you, brother. So domain names, there's so many scams out there in domain names. I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but you'll purchase a domain name and then you'll start getting mail. You'll start getting mail from people saying, oh, we can upgrade this or do this. And they charge you outlandish. I mean, honestly, it should be a crime. Outlandish fees. So you absolutely should not be paying $224 a year for your domain name. Now, if there are additional services attached to that, so sometimes there are additional services attached to it, like email hosting or things like that, that could be a factor in that. But literally, if you are talking about your domain name, you could be saving a ton of money and basically looking at between under $20 a year. So less than 10% of what you're currently paying to have your own domain name. Again, we offer free SSLs. Many times domain name providers will upsell you certain things through the checkout process, and you might not even be aware of it. They're just not super clear. But even with that, even with an SSL, we provide that for free to you. So I would recommend go to Namecheap. You can actually transfer your domain. They'll walk you through that. They have great support over there. They'll walk you through transferring your domain to them. And then if they ask you, hey, do you want an SSL? Do you want any of that stuff? No, we've got all that taken care of. Our provider provides that for free. We just need the domain name through you, and they can help you with that. So great question, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that question. And Tanya, I just responded in the comments to your question about if you are a current ChurchSpring customer, how do you actually point your domain name to your website? I will go through that process actually after our Q&A time here. I also, in the comments, I gave you the link there so you can click on that link and kind of get ahead of our tutorial here, but hopefully that can help you out. But yeah, so as we had mentioned, we will update your domain name to point to your website for free. We just need your login information to your domain provider. So Kevin, I think it was, whether that is National Domains or Namecheap or Google or kind of whatever your provider is, we just need that login info. And then we'll update it for you for free. Or you can also do it yourself if you're comfortable with that, or if you don't quite want to give out your login information, totally fine. We provide a tutorial that we take you step by step of the process of updating it yourself. So again, I'll walk you through that process here in a couple of minutes. Ron, can we talk about once you purchase a domain, do you own it forever? So once you purchase your domain with namecheap.com, you're on that annual or maybe sometimes a 5-year. What happens after that subscription period?
Yeah. So the first thing with a domain is to understand you never own it.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually leasing. So you can't go and purchase a domain name and own it for all of eternity without paying any more for it. It doesn't work that way. So you're actually leasing a domain name on different leasing periods, just like if you were to lease anything, an apartment, an office, church space, whatever that might be, you're leasing it. So what I would recommend is that a couple of things. Number one, the minimum is going to be a year. And any reputable domain name provider, it's going to be a year. So you have a couple of options. I actually recommend for people to, when they get their domain name, to go ahead and pay for it for multiple years. Unless there's some extenuating circumstance financially or otherwise, go ahead and actually purchase it for years. One of the reasons for that is from a search engine optimization perspective. People don't realize that there are many, many ranking factors in Google. One of them used to be, now it's still very undefined as is it now or not. They would actually go and look and see when your domain would expire to really see, is this a legitimate website? And they would then give you some extra scoring factors based on that. So I'm not going to say that is the case now because it's way more sophisticated than it used to be. But the point there being, if you can go ahead and register it for 2 or 3 years out and financially you're in a place to do that, I would encourage you to do it. The second thing is, especially with like Namecheap or any of these other mainline providers, just set it to auto renew. Yes. Then you don't have to think about it. You're never going to lose it. The last thing you want to have happen is for you to go out and promote it. It's in your bulletins. If you do those, it's on door hangers, it's on business cards, it's on all these different resources, maybe above the door, at your church or on your sign. The last thing you want to have happen is for that domain to expire and somebody else to come and pick it up and basically hold it hostage. By the way, there's bad people out there that do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like they make a ton of money off of holding domains captive. It's sad. But just make sure, go ahead and register it for multiple years, as well as set it to auto renew, and you'll be squared away there. So number one, you're leasing. Cost, again, Kevin just gave us a great thing there. Let me see where to go.
And he said that he hasn't actually bought that domain
yet.
So glad to hear that, Kevin. Well, we're happy to save him some money.
There we go. So awesome. Good job, Kevin. We're glad you're here. See, there's value right now, and we're saving you money. This is awesome. So awesome. So, yeah, let me go back here. So cost, definitely not $220 whatever dollars, less than $20 a year for sure. In many of them, they get you in, so they'll start. So like even Namecheap, I believe it's like $8.88 to get started, and then there's taxes and all that stuff. But you're going to be paying less than $20 a year for your domain. So do not pay anything more than that. And don't buy any of the extra things that we provide to you for free, like a security certificate. Security certificates can be very expensive because there's all kinds of levels of encryption and things like that when it comes to security certificates. So you don't even have to worry about that. Always opt out because we've got you covered on that space.
Yeah. And if you're a ChurchSpring customer and you are going through the process for the first time of buying your domain name and you aren't sure if you should buy certain add-ons, just send us a ticket in your website and we will happily answer any questions. I love when we get those questions from customers because then typically the answer is no, because again, we do offer the SSL certificate. We have a secure server. It is secure, encrypted, all that fun stuff. But yeah, reach out. That's why we're here for you. We want to serve you. We want to help you save money and use your website well. That reminded me, Ram. So when you do purchase your domain, are on your annual renewal, two things that you need to be aware of. When you do set up your email, some providers will have you verify the email on record. And if you do not verify that email within a certain number of days that is dependent on that provider, your domain name will no longer work. So, yes, you will have purchased that domain, but since you didn't verify that email, they will actually stop, for lack of better words, that domain from pointing to your website. So that is something that I see. It's something that I learned working in with ChurchSpring and with customers. So when you get that email, verify that email, and that will save you some time, some stress in the long run. And then the other thing that I thought of when you were talking, Ron, was updating your billing information. So if you would have your domain on an auto renewal, that is great. That is step one of making sure that you don't have to think about it a lot. However, if you get a new church card or if someone new is managing this, you may have a failed payment for the auto renewal. So once you get once you get a new card, if whatever is happening with that, always make sure that your domain provider is kind of on your short list of resources to update with that billing information. And if you do that, you'll be smooth once that auto renewal comes around.
Perfect. Yeah, and there's multiple contacts. There's multiple contacts when you register a domain name. So make sure that if a volunteer in your church, if they are the ones that get that they do make one of the contacts like an administrative contact. And I forget all the different contacts. There's multiple depending on your provider, but make sure that it's actually somebody that's on staff at your church as one of those contacts. So if something does happen, like a billing issue, then they can follow up there.
Yeah. And sometimes it's best just to have one of your general email addresses for the contact info. So like admin@yourchurchname.com. So then if whoever's managing that, if that changes hands, you'll typically always have your admin email or your contact us at churchspring.com or something. So
right. Yep. Perfect.
Fun tips for that. For all of you who are listening, Ron and I can talk a long time about domain names. So
we can just talk a long time, let alone about domain names. So anyway, as a quick transition, because I know you're gonna show us some stuff.
Yeah, I will.
And actually, I want to talk about a quick action item. But man, these are so encouraging. Thank you all. Yes. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your encouragement. You all know this in ministry. Many times, it's a challenge. It's you're persevering. You're being faithful to what God's called you to, and you don't get, some of the blessings of whether it's someone coming to know Christ or whatever that may be. And man, it can just be really, we're human. It can be discouraging.
Yeah.
So I just want to really just thank you all for showing up today, showing up in your ministries during just these very difficult times. So thank you all for what you do. And we just truly feel blessed to be able to be walking alongside you in your ministry. And we truly do count it a true privilege. So thank you all for what you do. So an action item. Every episode, we will have an action item of what is the next step that you can take based on what we've just discussed. So the action that we want you to take is that we want you to go, if you do not currently have a high quality domain name, so one that fits the factors that we've just defined, go out and purchase one. Okay. So you don't look at Facebook. That's not your website. That's not your digital address. A subdomain, if you're a customer of ChurchSpring and you're using the staging site, that is not meant to be your main digital address of your domain name. So go and purchase a high quality domain name. And again, we recommend namecheap.com, but whatever, there's a lot of great providers out there, but that's one in particular that we would recommend you go check out. Secondly, based on one of the comments that was mentioned here, was if you haven't purchased the other extensions of your domain, go and see if they're available and purchase those too. Right. So like, for example, if you just own the .com version, but you don't own the .org, .net, maybe .church, I wouldn't probably go too crazy beyond that.
Right.
But if you don't own those and they're available, I would encourage you to purchase them and then point them to your main domain, which again, we recommend .com.
Yeah. We have a good question from Benjamin that I do want us to quickly address. He
Yes.
asks, sort of off topic, maybe, but kind of not. So, good question, Benjamin. What are your thoughts, advice on domain emails versus using something like Gmail or Yahoo? That's a
So
packed question.
it is, and it's a really good question.
It
And
is.
let's go ahead and just dive into it.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, we in general want to try to keep these to 30 minutes, but we're way more focused on you
Yeah.
and adding value to you and answering your questions than we are some artificial timeline.
Mm.
Because ultimately, that's what we're in this for. We want to serve you. So let's go ahead and dig into this. So
Yeah.
number one,
And one thing real quick to
yeah,
add on that, Ron, this video will be available for a rewatch. So if you do have to hop off, that's okay. You can go to our website, churchspring.com, and you will be able to watch the rewatch, and you can hop in exactly on 40 minutes or wherever you left off. So just FYI.
perfect. So one thing to understand is that there is email hosting. So we've
Mhm.
talked about domain name hosting. We've talked about website hosting. Well, it's a similar thing with email. There's email providers out there. There are many types of email providers out there. A, we absolutely recommend that you get email at your domain.
Yeah.
It's not a requirement. It is a little bit of a nice to have thing,
Mhm.
but it just continues to reinforce your digital address, really.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that you do that. There's a lot of great providers out there. So you can go out and utilize a place like Google Apps. That's actually what we use at ChurchSpring. So we use Google Apps as a provider. Google Apps actually has what's called Google for nonprofits, where you can actually go and sign up for that. There's a little application, and if you meet the requirements, they will actually give you their services for free. So you're basically getting a powerhouse digital communications platform, email, Google Docs,
Yeah.
Google Drive, all of those things for free.
Mhm.
But there's also ones where many times you can actually just purchase email services through wherever you purchase your domain name. So if you don't really care about all the bells and whistles, depending on your specific organization, you can just get email at your domain through the place that you purchase your domain. I know Namecheap does that. Most domain name providers do that as well. So hope that answers your question, Benjamin. Let me just make sure here. Yeah. So I would say it's ideal. It's not like you're not doing something awful if you don't. A lot of churches just used regular gmail.com, but it's definitely a good thing to have it at your domain name if you can.
Yeah. And Ron, I think you mentioned this, but I want to clarify. ChurchSpring, we do not offer email hosting, email management, email
Right.
provider. So as you mentioned, Ron, that can come through your domain provider or Google. So ChurchSpring, we do not offer that
Yeah.
service.
And the reason we don't, just to tell you, like, did we just not because we just are trying to
Right.
be difficult? Actually, the exact opposite. We could easily offer email hosting, but it would be inferior to a lot of what many times is free solutions out there.
Right.
So what we do is, unless we can do something better, we just say we're just going to send you to the place where you can get it. You can get the best thing at the best rate. So that's
Right.
why we don't do, and there's many reasons. That's one of the primary reasons we don't do email hosting is when you can go out to Google, Google for nonprofits, or even your own domain registrar, and they give you a great platform to use for email, and we can't do that. Why? We don't want to offer it because we would recommend you go use one of these other providers because you're going to be way happier and it's going to be a way better solution for your needs. And communication, obviously, how many difficulties in ministry and personal relationships is like, oh, it's communication. Comes down to communication.
Yep.
So your website is a component of that, and your email is definitely a component of that. And we want you to have a great provider, and that's what we strive to be on the website side, and we will recommend you too. So Google, if I was you, it's what we use. So I'm practicing what I preach here. We use Google Apps. It's an incredible tool. And if it's a right fit for your ministry, that's what I would recommend you check out, or go through your domain name provider.
Mhm. And we will, in our show notes, we will link to Google for Nonprofits, how you can learn more about that. Otherwise, you can literally Google for Nonprofits, and that'll pop up. So be looking for those resources. Okay, these are really good questions. I just love seeing all these questions come through. Do we have any other questions from our live attendees here before I kind of shift focus?
You know, I'll look back through some of these, but let's go ahead. We'll do some more Q&A here at the end. Let's go ahead and jump into some how-tos.
Yep, that sounds good. So I'm going to share my screen here. Thank you.
Perfect.
And I will log in, show our current customers. So if you're not yet a customer, this is kind of a sneak peek behind the scenes what a ChurchSpring website really is like, how easy it is to use. I promise this is true. And I want to show you how you can update your staging site name. So in ChurchSpring, we call that a subdomain name. So you will probably hear me use both of those terms, but when I say subdomain name, that is the same thing as a staging site. I will show you how to update that really easy. And then I also want to walk through what does it look like to update your domain name in the backend of your ChurchSpring website and how you can go through the correct steps to update your domain name to point to your ChurchSpring website, whether you want to submit a request to our support team or if you want to do it yourself. We have options for both. So that is what I will cover here. If you guys have any questions, put it in the comments below. Ron, he'll be keeping an eye on that. And Ron, you can just interrupt me and let me know.
Sounds
so
great.
I will make my screen a bit larger there. All right. So I am showing my website here is on the Flourish plan. So the Flourish plan that's kind of our top level. The settings is on a different panel here to the left side. So if you're a current customer and you are on the Grow or the Sprout plan, your settings will be on the top right, but your settings is the same thing on the back end. So don't be alarmed if when you log into your website, it's a different layout. So to change your subdomain name, you will click Settings. And I am experiencing some slow Wi-Fi. So, and I'm live streaming. So as you view my screen, you may see that's a bit slow. And that is because my computer is trying to do a lot of things at one time. So thank you for having some grace and patience for everybody listening to me here. All right. So when you go to your settings, you will see a couple different tabs and it's automatically set to go to your dashboard. We have a header here called Website Domain Information. This is where you will update all of the information for your subdomain name and your custom domain. So to update your staging website name or your subdomain, it's super simple. You will update or click into this text box and make any updates that you want. So when you first get your ChurchSpring website, we do give you an automatically created subdomain name. It is a bunch of letters and numbers and kind of difficult to remember. I would recommend when you first get your website, change your subdomain name here so that it is super easy for you to remember and for you to type in. So if you want to change your subdomain name, I will change this to Isabel Demo Site 2020. And you can also click the check availability button to make sure that the subdomain name is available and that there's not someone else internally using that subdomain name. And if it is available, it'll check green. If it's not, our system will let you know. So once you've decided on what you want your subdomain to be, you can simply scroll down and click Save Information. When you do change your subdomain and when you click anywhere else, you will notice, and I'll do that right here in real life, that your website will actually log you out and it'll go back to churchspring.com. That's okay. Do not panic. That is because you just changed your website name. So instead of it being what it was, the default subdomain, you updated it. So you simply have to put in your new subdomain name. So I'll do that right here. org, and then it will bring up your website. You will also receive an email. Again, this is for customers. You will receive an email with your new subdomain link. So if you typed in your new subdomain name and you don't really remember what you actually did, that's okay. Go check your email. If you don't see anything right away, then give it a couple seconds and you'll be able to update, or you'll be able to view your new subdomain URL. So I'll log back in here, and then I want to show you how you can update your custom domain name. So as we talked about already, there are really two parts of updating your domain name. Obviously, you need to purchase your domain name, and then you will need to direct your domain name to your ChurchSpring website. So step one is to go into your website again, click on settings, and then on this dashboard, scroll down to where it says custom domain. This is where you will simply type in your domain name that you have. So let's just say my domain name is isabeldemo.com. When you type in your domain name in your website, just put exactly the format that I have. Don't put www before it. Don't put an HTTPS. Have this exact formula. This is what is needed for your DNS records to find your website here with ChurchSpring. So once you type that in, you'll scroll down, click Save Information. And let's see if my Wi-Fi, there we go, it will save. And then that's all that you need to do on your ChurchSpring website. So then the step two would be for you to decide, do you want to update your DNS records in your domain provider to point to your ChurchSpring website? Or do you want to submit a request for our team over at ChurchSpring to do it for you? There is no right or wrong answer. Whatever you're comfortable with, we are happy to help answer any questions and happy to accommodate you. So we have a really awesome support article set up of how to update your custom domain. If you can find this article, you can just go to our support library, and that's at churchspring.com/help. And you'll see, I believe we have frequently asked questions and we have how to update your custom domain in our top section there. So you will be able to find this link, and then I'll also include it in the show notes. In this article, we have a really advanced step-by-step option of how you can update your custom domain. So you'll go to option 2 here, update your custom domain yourself. We talk about the records that you will need to update. So you'll need to update 1 CNAME record and 2 A records. Again, as you can see, a lot of details there. I won't go into all those specifics. However, if you want ChurchSpring to update it for you, we're happy to do that. All you have to do is go to option 1 in the support article, click the fill out the secure form, and send us your request. What we need is your email, first name, your church name, and then your custom domain so that we can know which domain you want us to update to point to your ChurchSpring website, and your registrar name and your login information. So your registrar name, this is what we were talking about before, actually, where you purchased your domain name. So that could be Google, that could be Namecheap, wherever you're logging in and you see your domain name. And then we also need your login username and your password for your provider. So what I recommend is before you submit your request to our team here, simply go to your domain provider. So let's say it's Namecheap. You go to namecheap.com, log in, make sure that the username and the password that you think is correct actually is correct. Make sure that you do not have any 2-step verification set up. So then when you do submit your request to us, we can easily log in and we won't have to go back and forth on getting the login information. The one other thing that I wanted to review here is, what if you don't know what your domain or who is your domain name provider? So let's say you have your domain name, it's firstbaptistofcolorado.com, but you don't actually know, where do you log in? How do you get access to this? And we can probably talk for 30 minutes on that, I'm sure. However, the first step that I recommend is to go to whois.com. And that is also in our support article that we have, whois.com. And you can actually type in your domain name. So let's just do churchspring.com. And this will pull up your domain provider. So a technical name for that is registrar. So when you see registrar or domain provider, that is the same thing. So registrar right here is GoDaddy. So that would be your first hint of, all right, GoDaddy or Namecheap or Google, they have they have access to my website. I need to try to log in to my provider. And you can kind of start that process of getting your information. So I know that was a lot of information that I just gave. Do we have any questions from customers about updating your staging site of, sorry about that, of updating your domain, or any other questions from our live attendees?
Yeah, we actually have a really good question from Tanya. So I'll go ahead and jump on that.
Yeah.
And that question is, do I have to update my custom domain every time ChurchSpring updates? So the answer to that question is no. So I want to give a little context. I think, Tanya, you may be alluding to recently, we actually did a migration. So just because of the massive growth that we've had over the last several months, we've actually migrated from servers. So we went from one server to actually we're now on what's called Amazon Web Services, which is, I forget the percentage of the total internet that runs, but last I heard it was like 50% of the total internet. So really good hosting provider. So in that instance, because we migrated servers, you had to update your DNS. And for many of our customers, we actually did it for them. However, for moving forward, Lord willing, we don't plan to migrate servers anytime soon. Just because Amazon Web Services is just such a rock solid environment for us to really continue to serve more ministries in. So when we just do, we're going to be rolling out tons of product updates. I can't even tell you how excited I am about some of the things we're talking about and the impact that it's going to make on your local ministry. But when we push out those updates, you're not going to have to update your domain name provider. And Lord willing, we won't have to do that here ever again. Obviously, extenuating circumstances may determine otherwise, but we're in a really solid place to really help us continue to serve more ministries. So no, the short answer is no, you don't have to do that. And that's great news, isn't it? Because then you don't have to go through that process. Isabel, thank you for breaking that down for us. That was a mouthful and a ton of very technical information as far as domains and how they operate and how to solve some of these really frequently asked questions we get every single day. So anyway, let's see if there are any other questions here. I think that's
I think
the
we're caught up.
majority of them. Awesome. Very good. Well, that's good because we've been going now for 58 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. But if you have any other questions, feel free. Go ahead, throw them in the comments. We're happy to answer whenever that is. Great question. How long does it take for ChurchSpring staff to update the DNS for my custom domain? So there's two things to consider here. Okay. There's number one, when you submit the form, our team going in and making the changes. And then the second piece, which actually can take the longest part, is actually DNS updating across the internet. Okay. So I will let Isabel circle back on the first part of that because you can unpack that better. But the second part of that question is it can take up to really 48 to 72 hours once the changes are made for them to go into effect. Now, that's not normal. Many times it is much faster than that. However, we don't want to set your expectation that, it's going to be, like within 5 hours, because that's totally out of our control. We submit the update and then it's up to all the servers across the internet. And depending on where you're located, some people may see it sooner than other people. Literally, Mike Curley, who's our co-founder, we're like a mile or less from each other. And literally, I'm not even kidding, he'll see something before I do after we make a DNS change. So that part, once we've made the change, it could take 48 to 72 hours for that to actually take effect across the internet. But why don't you, once they've submitted that form, what should their expectations be?
Yeah. So typically it does take about 1 to 3 days for us to update your domain. It really does take us, I should say business days, 1 to 3 business days. So if you submit it on Saturday, we are available 8 to 5 Central, Monday through Friday. So first thing when we come in on Monday, we will pull up any domain requests from the weekend and we'll get that done for you. If we do experience any login information when we're trying to log into your account, we will send you an email at the email address that you submitted your request to, with a note in that email actually that says a little bit about why we're unable to update your domain. So typically the frequently the issue that I see often is that the login info is just not correct. So be looking at those notes. Sometimes there's a lot of technical issues that may happen. And so we may recommend talk with your domain provider for next steps, as they are the ones who they are managing your domain and they'll be able to actually get you towards the solution that is needed. So be looking for that email. And then when we do update your domain, we will send you an email letting you know that it's been updated. If you haven't noticed already, when you go to your domain, it's pointed to your ChurchSpring website. Like Ron says, it can take some time for that to update. So I would say plan ahead. If you're wanting for your website to go live on end of the week, on Monday, just send in a domain update request to our team. We will get to that as soon as possible. Hopefully, if everything goes well, login information is correct, your provider updates, you may be able to be live on Tuesday even. However, if there's any login info issues, or if it does take 72 hours to update, then we want to make sure that you can go live on the time that, or on the day that you really want it to.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think the main key thing is, and this does happen pretty frequently, and that's why we're stressing it.
Yeah.
Help us help you.
Right.
We genuinely want to help you get it over as quick as we can, because we want you to start getting the benefits of your ChurchSpring, new ChurchSpring website. So do this for us. Make sure you actually go and log into your domain name provider with the information that you're providing us to actually see that it works. And again, I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence here, but it just happens frequently.
Yeah.
So make sure you go, you log in, you verify the username and password that it works. And not only that it works, but then that domain name is actually under that account. Mm-hmm. So we've also had issues where people have given us username and passwords and we've logged in, and that's not even where the domain name, it was.
There's nothing there. It would be empty.
Yeah. And a volunteer actually purchased the domain name under their personal account. So it's not under the account that we've been given. So, obviously we're not trying to insult anybody here, but we just want to say we want to help you. Yeah. And that really helps us get you to the finish line as quickly as possible. Peter's got a great question here, and it's specifically related to, we were able to update their domain name, it sounds like, and then why is it necessary to submit a new ticket to have it permanently to my custom domain? So I would recommend just reach out to us. Let us know more of those details. Once you update a custom domain, you don't have to do that again. Now, what we have seen happen is, and you can imagine with as many churches as we work with, we see kind of a lot of everything. Well, one of the things that we have seen happen is that somebody inadvertently went in and changed some DNS records that person wasn't aware of, maybe related to something else, or maybe they just didn't know what was going on and they just clicked a button that said park my domain or revert my DNS, and it automatically goes back and changes it. So Peter, I'm not going to say that that's the issue in that situation, but regardless, once we update it, you're going to be good to go. You're not going to have to update it again. So if you're still having issues with that, please reach out to us through a support ticket, and our team will be all over that and get that remedied for you once and for all. And with that, make sure that you know who has access to your domain. If it is an issue of somebody going in there and making changes after the fact, we just have that happen. I'm not going to say it's like an everyday occurrence, But obviously, when you go through the hurdle of getting it updated, you just want to be done with it. And
Right.
we second that feeling. So just make sure that you are aware of who's getting in there and that they know don't make any changes to our DNS because it's how it needs to be. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And really, bottom line, if you have questions about your domain provider or DNS records, send us a ticket. We want to help you.
Yeah.
And we have an amazing team on staff. I mean, our co-founders, Ron here and Mike, they have a lot of knowledge. Our support team, we have a lot of knowledge. And so between all of us, we can answer a lot of questions. So if you have questions, there really isn't a dumb question. So reach out. We want to help make this process as smooth as possible.
Absolutely. And the thing I say with that, there absolutely is no dumb question except the one you have that you don't ask.
Yep.
We want to serve you. So please let us help you. You're very welcome, Peter. Peter. It's our pleasure to answer your question. If you have any others, please don't hesitate. I don't see any coming in at this moment. Awesome. Cool. I'm going to.
Thanks, Benjamin.
There you go. Love it, Benjamin. Man, you filled my cup, brother. I really appreciate you jumping in here. You guys have just been yeah. It's actually kind of emotional. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of a softie, so really appreciate you all. Yeah. All right. So let's go over to prayer requests. If there's any other questions, definitely don't hesitate to ask. But we're gonna jump into some prayer requests. I haven't seen any come in yet. We do actually have some that have come in. You'll get emails from us periodically asking for prayer. We truly want to be your partner in ministry. And at the end of the day, we're all on the same team trying to reach a lost world with the hope of Jesus Christ. And we absolutely want to pray with you. So if you have any prayer requests, please, in just the next minute or so, go ahead and submit those. We do have 2 requests that have come in that I think is just relevant to everybody. Let's see. It looks like Pastor White mentioned pray for discernment and guidance as we navigate to return to our church. So we're absolutely going to pray for that today because I know that's across the board. Looks like Jason Whitaker asked for peace in our nation. I don't think there's a single person, not only in our country, but across the world, that with just the things going on right now, whether it's related to, well, all the things that are going on right now, from COVID to the conversation on equality. There's just a lot going on right now. And praise God, our hope is in him. But we absolutely want to pray for our country, want to pray for the leaders of our country, and want to pray for every church, every pastor, every church leader that's represented here, as well as across the world, that God would continue to really give us a burden and really break our hearts for the lost and give us a love for the lost. Because let's be honest, this is sin. This is the sin curse. And, we have a job to do. God has called us to go into all the world. When we talk about, we're committed to the Great Commission, we are absolutely committed to the Great Commission. Yes, through providing the software tools and resources, but also through the power of prayer, the gift that God's given us to communicate with him directly. So we absolutely want to be praying for you. All right. Looks like we've got a couple questions that have been answered. I don't see any prayer requests unless I'm missing something there, Isabel, that has just come in. Okay. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead then and wrap up with prayer, but I just want to pause for a moment. Anything that I'm missing, Isabel, or we look good to go?
We are good to go.
Okay. Let's go ahead and pray. Dear God, I thank you for today. Lord, I thank you for your love for us. Lord, I thank you for your calling, Lord, on our lives, and Lord, on those who are watching and will be watching in the future. Lord, we are just humbled that you, in your great love and mercy and patience, Lord, that you choose to use us. So, Lord, I pray that you would continue to give us strength and endurance, Lord, during these difficult days. Lord, I pray that you would help us to truly be a light for you, Lord, in our local communities as well as in around the world. God, I pray that you would, again, go before us Strengthen us. Lord, help us to be filled with your Spirit. Lord, help us to be led and help us to be obedient to how you lead us, Lord, in your call in our life. So, Lord, I pray that you would be with the prayer request, Lord. I think of Pastor White there, and I know that this is echoed, Lord, in my own heart, and I know in pastors across our world, Lord, of navigating the local gatherings, Lord, and what does that look like now, and how do we do certain things? So, Lord, I pray that first and foremost, Lord, that you would lead us and that you would guide us and that you would help us to be in tune with you. Lord, I pray that you would give us and fill us, Lord, with a love for others, that for those that maybe don't feel like it's quite time yet, Lord, that you would give us grace, Lord, that you would help us to love them where they are, and Lord, to minister to them where they are. And Lord, for those that do choose to come back and gather locally, God, that you would again work, and that, Lord, that ultimately that you would be honored and you would be glorified because of how you lead us and because of our obedience to you. So Lord, I pray that you would help us to be a light during these dark times. So Lord, I pray that you would be with our country, Lord, be with our world. Lord, we are finite. You are infinite. Lord, we know that nothing going on right now is outside of your control, that it's not a surprise to you. And God, I pray that you would help us to genuinely obey you, Lord, based on your word, that we are to love you fully, completely. Lord, and we're to love others, not based on their economic status, not based on the color of their skin, Lord, but because it's your command to us. And Lord, you've modeled that for us. Lord, you first loved us. So Lord, I pray that you would work in our country, work in the hearts of those that don't know you. Lord, draw them to yourself. Lord, help us to be faithful. Lord, each one of us to continue to cast the net, Lord, and to minister to those that you bring across our path. So again, God, I just thank you for the encouragement today. Lord, that Benjamin and so many others have been, God, just overwhelmed. Just overwhelmed with your goodness. So God, we thank you for your love. We thank you for the calling in our life. Lord, we thank you for who you are. So Lord, work in us. Lord, work through us to accomplish your will. Lord, help us to live fully surrendered to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, I'll promise to try to keep the tear count down, but I can't promise that too much, because man, when you get to talk to the creator of the universe, man, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap up here, thank you all again for joining us. Again, just overwhelmed with your kindness, your goodness. We truly count it a privilege. It's not just words. We truly do count it a privilege, all of us at ChurchSpring, to minister to you, to serve with you, to partner with you, to reach your local community and to reach our world. with the gospel. So our next show will be next Thursday, 10 a.m. Central. I don't know. Every time I say that line, it makes me think back to my childhood of the old Batman movies, same bad time, same bad channel. So anyway, now you'll be thinking about that. But anyway, so Thursday, 10 a.m. Submit your questions. So we will schedule an event prior to the live. Feel free to jump on there. We'll send out an email. Feel free to ask your questions, and we will answer as many of those as we can.
Yeah.
And we're here to support you. So God bless you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll look forward to connecting with you all next week.
Yeah. See you next week.
God bless everyone.
Is your church website a source of pain and frustration? Well, I have great news for you. Those days are over. I'm Ron Gibson, the co-founder of ChurchSpring, and I'm excited to show you the most intuitive, affordable, and yes, frustration-free church website platform on the planet. Welcome to ChurchSpring. Organizing your navigation has never been easier. With our inline editing and drag and drop capabilities, you can reorganize your menus in no time. Want to add a slider to the homepage? Simply select a slider layout, customize the content, click Save, and you're done. Ready to take your homepage up a notch by adding a video background? Just go to the background menu, choose the video you want, and that's it. You're ready to go. See something that needs updated on your website? No need to mess with a difficult back-end system. Just click on the content, make your changes, click Save, and it's live. Is managing your church calendar a time-consuming and painful endeavor? With ChurchSpring, managing your online church calendar is an absolute breeze. Click to add an event, enter the details, add registration if desired, set it to repeat if needed, and click Save. It's incredibly simple. Now it's time to leverage the power of social media to promote your event, sermon, or blog post. With the ChurchSpring Social Scheduler, simply create your social media posts in seconds and will automatically post to your ministry social media channels. Isn't that awesome? Just think of all the time this powerful feature will save you. Do you live video stream your services? No problem. That's integrated into the settings of each event. Update it and the countdown clock begins. Adding sermons to your site or podcast feed doesn't have to be as strenuous as writing them. Just choose your file, add some details while it uploads, click Save, and it's ready to play. But Ron, what happens when I'm ready to give my website a fresh new look? I'm glad you asked. As a member of ChurchSpring, you get full access to our entire library of premium church website designs. You can simply click and change your website's entire design with just a click of a button. It's really that easy. This is just a quick sampling of ChurchSpring's many powerful features. Want to see more? Great. Visit churchspring.com/demo to join me for an in-depth look at more of ChurchSpring's top features such as online giving, live video streaming, and much, much more. Visit us online at churchspring.com/demo. Welcome to the most intuitive, affordable, and yes, frustration-free church website platform on the planet. Are you ready to go? Great. Sign up for your 7-day free trial now and launch your brand new church website in just 90 seconds flat. Simply visit churchspring.com/go to launch your new website today.